Hello and welcome to this edition of the France 24 interview. I'm here in the chamber of the UN Security Council, where members of the Security Council have just voted to approve a UN peacekeeping mission in the Central African Republic. I'm joined for more on that by the Assistant Secretary General for Peacekeeping, Mr. Edmond Mulet. Thanks very much for being with us today on France 24. First of all, tell us why have we had to wait so long to have this peacekeeping mission? Some say that the situation in the Central African Republic has been on the verge of genocide.
Well, we've been waiting for this for several weeks and I would say even several months. And the Secretary General Ban Ki-moon has been calling for this mission since last October, November, and certainly since the events in Bangui in December. And he's been insisting on the need to deploy a peacekeeping mission in Central African Republic. And it's only now that Security Council is voting on that. It's a matter of political will, it's a matter of resources, it's a matter also of working together with the African Union. The African Union has deployed in Bangui in Central African Republic a very important peacekeeping mission, and they've been doing a fantastic job there. And now it's going to be our turn to assume that responsibility in the next weeks. Could we had this resolution before? Maybe. I think it would have been important, but this is when we have it now, and now we're going to implement this mandate.
You say that MISCA and the other forces backing them up, including the French, have been doing a good job, but we've seen ethnic cleansing in this country, haven't we?
Yes, that's the right term, I would say. And but if the French forces and the African Union forces had not been in Bangui or in Central African Republic, the situation will be much, much worse. So I think that they have averted a much larger situation than what we have seen so far on the ground. So we are very thankful for the presence of the French troops and the African Union troops on the ground.
What about the presence of the Chadian troops? Just last week, Chad announced that it's going to pull out its troops. They've already started leaving after the Chadian soldiers were accused of of murdering civilians.
Well, the Chadian troops are indeed leaving as a troop contributing country to MISCA. But what we don't know is who is responsible for that incident or that killing that happened last week in Bangui. Chad has two parallel forces, one being part of MISCA under the African Union leadership, and the other one is a separate parallel independent force, pure Chadian, that was deployed in Central African Republic to facilitate the repatriation of Chadian nationals. So at this point we don't know really who was responsible for those killings.
But whichever force it was, surely it's still extremely serious if the Chadians are implicated in the murder of civilians.
Indeed. But then we don't know under which command and control yet. And then eventually in the future, I think that we could invite Chadian troops to come back to work under the UN flag and under the UN command and control and under UN rules.
Even if they'd been accused of killing civilians, even if it were proven that they'd killed.
But it depends who. I mean, we would not be inviting the same commanders or the same troops that were involved in such incidents or such crimes.
Aside from the accusations against the Chadian troops, isn't it also a conflict of interests to have UN peacekeepers in the country from neighbouring countries who have a vested interest in what happens in that country?
Well, we have to adapt to the circumstances of the situation and the demands in Central African Republic. And the neighboring countries were the first ones to respond to the instability in Central African Republic in a very generous way. And they were the ones, the neighboring countries, that provided the troops that did really stabilize the situation in Bangui in the very beginning with the French forces. And I think that the neighboring countries are part of the solution also, not only with their contribution with military contingents, but also on the political track.
Do Do you have figures for how many people have been killed during this crisis in the Central African Republic?
No, I don't have the latest figures, but it's certainly in the thousands, and it's sometimes very difficult to know exactly because we don't have a visibility all over the country, a country the size of France and Belgium together, and the population is dispersed all over. Only 4.6 million people living in this country, and many are living in faraway villages where some very serious security incidents have happened.
But it's clear that there has been ethnic cleansing. Before this crisis, 15% of the population was Muslim. Now it's only 3%. And those who remain desperately want to leave, by all accounts. How will the peacekeeping operation work? Will you accompany the rest of those who want to leave out of the country and be complicit with that ethnic cleansing?
Well, the first responsibility the mission would have is the protection of civilians. And what we need is to save lives and to prevent that ethnic cleansing and that religious strife. And if in the very beginning this means protecting these people and moving them away from the areas or cities or regions where they would be in danger, I think this would be the right approach. But then at the same time, we have to work on the national dialogue and reconciliation process that President Samba Panza is very much involved in and committed to. And so we need to support that process also. Two communities that live together for generations, forever. And for the last 2 years, this big divide was created almost artificially by political manipulation, I would say. I think that they really deserve to, the ones who left, they really deserve to come back to their country and to live where they were born. I mean,
so to what extent do you think the crisis is an ethnic conflict, and to what extent is it also caused by other things, by economic interests, a power struggle? I
mean, these two communities had lived together forever, and in the last 2 years, the political manipulation of politicians and different agendas have created this divide between the two communities. And many say it's an artificial divide in many ways, and driven by economic interests, political interests that have nothing to do with religion until now. And all the heads of state, except one, I believe, in Central African Republic, all of them for the last 50 years came to power through a coup d'etat, representing rebel groups or guerrilla movements, etc. And the motivation behind these rebel groups, more than the good of the country or to serve the country or to create democratic institutions, it's been money, resources, the control of those natural resources. And that's why I'm very happy that the Security Council now has incorporated into its resolution the mandate for the mission in coordination with the World Bank, the European Union, the African Union, IMF, etc., to help the Central African Republic manage its own natural resources.
You once told journalists that you had seen Cessna planes stuffed full of diamonds leaving the Central African Republic.
No, I've never said that. I've never seen a Cessna stuffed with diamonds. I know about many, many landing strips in Central African Republic, illegal ones, where Cessna planes, light airplanes land there, and they take off loaded with gold and diamonds and other natural resources. That is happening. That is certainly true.
So the killings continue, the ethnic cleansing continues, and this peacekeeping mission is going to be in place only in 6 months' time. Why can't you speed up that rehatting process and the deployment of more soldiers?
Well, already the African Union troops that amount to almost to 6,000 are there on the ground. The French troops also. European Union is also deploying 1,000 troops in the next weeks. And already the African troops and French troops have made an enormous difference. And the killings and the massacres would have been much worse if they had not been deployed. But in order to deploy a Blue Helmet peacekeeping operation, we need also to generate the troops. And now with this mandate from the Security Council, we'll be able to reach out officially to other troop contributing countries in Africa or in other parts of the world
But you yourself said it, that in some ways there's a lack of political will. Who is lacking in political will? Which countries are responsible for this taking such a long time?
Well, I think that the political will is here now, and there is a vote in the Security Council, and we're going to move forward, and we're going to implement this mandate.
But would you agree with those diplomats who've told me that the United States has been quite reticent about getting involved in another very costly peacekeeping mission in Africa?
No, I don't think it has anything to do with costing. I think it was the nature of the peacekeeping mission. And the conditions for a traditional peacekeeping mission are not there yet. I mean, we don't have factions that have agreed on a peace agreement or a cessation of hostilities. So there's no really peace to keep.
There have been two previous peacekeeping missions in the Central African Republic. Why did they fail?
Well, I think that we thought that after an election, everything had come back to normal and everything was okay. And then the Security Council decided to close those previous missions. But now I think we all understand that we need to do much more in many areas, not only in stability and military issues and security, but also re-establishing the rule of law and the state and institutions in the Central African Republic. It's not only a matter of stability and security. We have to go beyond that, and that's going to take some time. And I think that the commitment and the engagement and the political will of the members of the Security Council and the international community is there to do the job well done this time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Edmond Mulet, the Deputy Head of Peacekeeping here at the United Nations. That's all for now from the France 24 interview. Do stay tuned.